Hi everyone, I'm Paul and I tell you everything you need to know about the artisanplus planning and inventory solution for coffee roasters. Today we are looking into some of the graphs that illustrate your operations and show why it makes sense to enter all the data you have available. We start in the Stores tab and bring up the charts by clicking on this little separator bar here. The first thing you should notice is that you can select the or a number of stores that should be taken into account for the graphs. We choose to first only visualize coffee in our roastery itself. Let's start from the bottom and work our way up. First graph here shows the density of each of your beans if you have specified it. If you haven't, you can do that any time in the Beans properties. I just click on the chart to jump directly to the Beans tab and it opens that coffee. Here I can directly see the density value, and by simply tapping somewhere on the table I can add or edit the value. Next to the density is the value for the moisture of the beans, which we will see displayed in the following graph. Next up is an overview of the different types of processing. It shows 1 dry, 1 hybrid, and 2 with wet processing. Where does that come from? We check in the Beans tab, select the first entry, and have the processing type right here. In fact, processing category is also already visible in the overview, and we can directly verify that we have 1 dry, 2 wet, and 1 with a hybrid processing, as we find back in our graph. Also interesting is the summary of types of beans we currently have in our roastery, separated by species and by variety. Of course, this also comes from data that you have hopefully specified with your beans. The varieties can also be seen in the list of coffees already. You can inspect the details in the table and also add and edit them there. We head back to the graphs and find our greens listed separated by their origin. The tooltips show how much coffee there is from each origin. The top graph is a more coarse view, grouping the origins into 7 main large regions, mainly continents. So we find El Salvador and Honduras in Central America. We additionally have the value or price of the beans broken down to the different regions. If you don't have any data here, check in the store's overview whether the costs are listed next to the amounts. When we click on one of those, we get an explanation that the values come from the purchases you've made. If you have left more coffee than the last purchase, the current price is calculated taking the previous purchases into account. You can check and verify the calculation in this dialog. If you don't have the prices here, go to the respective coffee and look at the transactions. You will find all the purchases here, and you're able to edit them, and on the second page of the dialog, enter the price. You can also list the purchases in the report section, but I will show this in another video. Back to the graphs, we get to the maybe most interesting chart, which is called the age graph. It shows us, not surprisingly, the age of the beans, which is the time since it was picked at the origin. In this case, nearly 2 years ago. It has been stored with us for a little over 1 year, based on the first purchase of the beans. In the last line here, the expected reach gives us an estimate on how long our current stock will probably last, considering our roasting history, including that particular bean. Note that this also includes blend roasts, if those beans are included in any blend. The expected total age calculates the age of the last beans we are going to roast if we stick to the projection. If one of your entries is missing the blue harvested portion, jump to the beans and you will find that you probably have not or not completely given the harvested date. Add the information and save it. The age graph now correctly shows it, and I get a much better overview on the age of my beans. Similarly, if you find that some beans don't show the projection into the future, you may not have done any roasts yet. This is the case with the mixed Mercedes here. For the Cherry Robusta, we check in our store and see that we only have 6 kg left in the roastery. But we do have more in the storage location. Let me quickly increase the window size here so that we can see the drop down of locations from the beginning. When we add the storage to the selected locations, the graph is updated and now shows us that we still have 3 months worth of beans. Very good. The final graph on top gives us a feeling about the total amounts of beans we have in our roastery and all other locations over time, including the money we spent if you have entered the data as shown before. But there is so much more we can see on the platform. Stay tuned and look forward to the next videos where I will talk about how to create reports, plan your roast day, and a lot of the other great features of Artisan Plus.